Monday. How are you today? Nice to see you. Sorry I bowed out last Wednesday because we're so close to finishing this amazing book. But man, I had a cold and I had this tickle thing going on, and you know how that rolls. You start talking and you start coughing. So it's like, that's not going to be fair to you. And I wasn't even going to attempt it because I knew it was not going to end well. So I'm back here today. I don't know if we can finish this. If we can't, we'll be back Wednesday. And, having Wednesday will be more than enough time to finish this book. So maybe we'll take some time for reflection afterwards. But anyway, I was just looking at my goal. I have a goal written on a card. It's part of the TIR, the course that I teach. And I have it right here in front of me all the time. And I was just thinking, I'm going to make a duplicate goal that I can keep in my pocket, because sometimes if I keep it in my pocket, then I'll forget and then it's not there. But if I come down into my office, it's right there in front of my face every time I sit down here. Okay, we are on page 304 and it says Quantum Leap. Now, as you know, this is the Quantum Academy and my business is Quantum Connections Incorporated. So this is kind of cool. And I know where this is going because I know what the Quantum Leap is. Quote, most people confuse wishing and wanting with pursuing. You must place your trust in action. End quote. Price Pritchett. Dad was often asked about his top 5 books. And of course, his number one was always Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Let's face it, that was the book that changed the course of his life. And that is the one he has always had in his possession. In fact, that book was so well read that it was falling apart. He had a wide rubber band wrapped around it, holding it together, and a pouch to store it in when he traveled. Many people over the years tried to give him a new edition or have the old one repaired. He would never consider doing that. In his eyes, the book that he held in his hand since October 1961 was an old friend that carried the energy of his journey, and he would never part with it or change it. Today, when I hold that book in my hands, I can feel my father's energy. Another book at the top of Dad's list was U Squared by Price Pritchett, who you met in the foreword of this book. U Squared, also known as, well, he's got it written U with a 2 on it, for squared, and then he goes AKA U Squared, is a quantum leap manual. At just 36 pages in length, it's a booklet more than a book. But Dad would say, don't let that fool you. Those 36 pages contain some of the most powerful lessons I've ever learned. When Dad first picked up U Squared, he immediately resonated with the story and the concepts laid out by Price. He recognized himself in the book and realized he'd made those many quantum leaps throughout his life. He could connect the dots. U Squared is a thesis in not settling and instead imagining breakthroughs in achievement that are not incremental or gradual. Instead, they are both dramatic and large. Huge, a quantum leap. It is a formula for a different kind of route to success. When teaching on stage, Dad would hold up U Squared and say, you should get a copy. Price Pritchett, the book's author, got wind of Bob Proctor promoting his book from stage and phoned my father asking what he was doing because his book sales were skyrocketing. Well, this sparked a friendship between them that lasted many years. I was fortunate to have met Price in person. Dad and I had dinner with him one night after a seminar in Los Angeles. I was struck by how kind and incredibly thoughtful Price is in his thinking. After meeting and hearing him speak, I understood why Dad respected Price so much. It was such a treat to watch the two of them interact. Price is from Texas. He has a warm southern drawl and a way of speaking that puts you at ease. They were like two old friends, really enjoying each other's company. During dinner, Price talked about quantum leaps. But what really struck me was when he said that most people tend to advance in life at a measured pace, essentially moving up into life a single step at a time. His theory was that anyone could make an explosive jump and move multiple steps simultaneously, seemingly at odds with common sense and without apparent effort. He continued by saying that what it required was a change in habits. Price said if you want to accelerate your achievement rate rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors. When he said that, I realized why my father was as successful as he was. He was constantly, with intention, doing things that changed his behaviors while changing his habits. And it was the little things that he did that it added up and caused the quantum leaps in his life. For example, Dad told me that every morning he would write out a statement or way of thinking multiple times to anchor it in his mind. By doing this, he was convincing his subconscious mind that it was so. When you first hear the idea of a quantum leap, it can seem ridiculous or impossible. However, when you make a big jump forward and look back, it always seems more straightforward than when you started. As Price said, quantum leaps occur when there is a radical departure from our routine habits. To make a change, you must do something different, which takes conscious effort. You have to exercise conscious control to bring yourself back to the new or desired behavior over and over and over until it becomes a habit. At our paradigm shift event, Dad would give a simple exercise designed to do this. The practice demonstrated the discipline it would take to create a new habit and show how making a change, even on a small scale, would be uncomfortable at first. The exercise was to write out an affirmation in a clean journal that you use only for this purpose. You write the affirmation once with your dominant hand and then 10 times daily for 30 days. You write it using your non-dominant hand. This may only make sense to you once you try it, but you will have real and lasting breakthroughs by committing to this. I can say this because I've personally done it, and I have witnessed the breakthroughs in others. This exercise is forging new paths that will serve you when you apply the same tenacity to other real changes you want to make in your life. Gradually, you will see the way to what you are imagining. You will find yourself doing things that you may not have typically done. In time, you will bring into your life what you are looking for, and you will show yourself and the world what you're capable of. Reflecting on my father's life, it is easy to recognize that his first big quantum leap was right after receiving Think and Grow Rich as a gift in 1961. It was that following year that his annual income became his monthly income. It was precisely that quantum leap that propelled him into this work. He became obsessed with discovering why he had changed so much. How he went from a self-described loser to what felt like an overnight success in the 1960s. As he uncovered the answers, he then became obsessed with sharing that information with others. Dad had many quantum leaps throughout his 60 years of teaching, but once he understood the principles of his success, he was no longer surprised by them. He had learned to operate from a place of expectation. Here are the 3 books at the top of my father's reading list. They are the ones stacked on his desk in his studio. They were sitting there, ready for the next trip he was going to take. The Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier. As a Man Thinketh, it's a tiny little book. I keep it with me everywhere too, by James Allen. And The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. Bob Proctor's library was extensive, and numerous other books could be on the list. However, these 3 titles were the ones, in addition to the Think and Grow Rich and U Squared, waiting on his desk. Consider, what is it that you most want to achieve? Begin with a clear intention and see and feel yourself there, enjoying the life you desire. Basically, go there in your imagination and hold that image in your mind. Your body and the universe will catch up, matching the speed of vibration. Decide you will consider other ways. You can do this by writing out the situation or circumstance and looking at it throughout the day. Then add your thoughts each time you come back to it. Soon you will notice that you are expanding your thinking in new ways. Don't skip this exercise and definitely don't underestimate it. A sudden shift in consciousness can appear seemingly out of nowhere. How can you bust free from the limits you have been living with? One step at a time. Keep your eye on the big picture and your big goal, and focus on the little things you can do each day that will add up to you to get there. Remember, often breakthroughs are made by violating logic. Bust free from the limits by creating the habit of doing the illogical. What do you need to change in your daily routine to put you on the path of your quantum leap? Morning habits are an important part of your life to look at right now. If you want to change something about yourself and get different results, pay attention to what you focus on when you start your day, because this sets the stage. Take 5 minutes each morning and write out your goal. Include details. Write it in the present tense and allow yourself to feel a strong sense of expectation. Though unseen to the naked eye, this sets up an attractive force. Then let this be the last thing you think of at night before you fall asleep, and the first thing you think of when you open your eyes in the morning. Take time to close your eyes and breathe into the feeling of having already achieved these things. While you may or may not be aware of the scientifically or spiritual principles and of universal laws being activated when you do this, please understand this is how you create change in your life. Suspend your disbelief and trust the process. In the morning after you finish this exercise, write down 2 habits you want to make part of your new paradigm and work on them each day until they become your new routine. In the beginning, choose something that will quickly give you a taste of success. This could be as simple as making your bed right after you wake up. If your challenge is manageable at the start, you will likely stay committed, and you'll also get a taste of discipline it'll take. Then, as your belief grows, so will your confidence in that area that you are in the driver's seat and you can take on bigger changes. Stay consistent. It might take a week, a month, or even a year. That time will go by anyway, so use it to your benefit. It is repetition that will change your paradigms. Commitment to that repetition. Remember, where attention goes, energy flows. Get started right now. Your future will thank you. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 12, Supporting Others. Be present. Let go of the past and enjoy the moment. Quoted by Bob Proctor. In the early years of my life, while busy building a new business and trying to provide for our family, Dad still stopped and took the time to be present when we were together. We would spend time outdoors playing catch, and many weekends were spent together building a tree fort in the backyard of our home in Chicago. Whether night or day, I always felt valued and seen by Dad. Even though I was young, I could feel his full attention. If in the You Were Born Rich recordings, Dad held up a sand timer and said, "You don't know how much time you've got left. And what's gone is gone. The only thing we have is right here and right now, because the sand never stops running. This is all we've got." And to spend time now thinking about what happened in the past or worrying about the future is making certain we don't change anything. All you've got is now. This was a lesson Dad shared with all of us as teenagers. Perhaps it was because a friend of his was killed in a car accident at the age of 16. If you'd have asked that young man on the morning he died how much time he thought he'd have left to live, he would have certainly said a whole lot. That loss made an impression on my father that lasted a lifetime. He talked about it often and how it taught him to appreciate the here and now. During the summers, Dad would take me on the road with him when he worked. He would have he would have me along to help in whatever way I could. He always wanted me to immerse in the material and experience. I have fond memories of being on planes with him and long road trips in the car. He made sure I felt like I was contributing to the process, including me in conversations with influential people and making me feel valued, often asking my thoughts on something or asking me what I learned that day. In those early years, I learned the value of relationships. I saw how Dad dealt with people while on the road and how he made sure that he left everyone met feeling better than when they met him. When I started this chapter, it was during a visit to Toronto in 2019. I was staying at my dad and Linda's home. As soon as my eyes opened each morning, I quickly got dressed and went to the sitting room where I knew Dad would be waiting for me. We considered the mornings our time. We were the only ones awake, and it was still dark outside. I'd pour myself a cup of coffee and top up his. He would greet me with a warm smile and a gentle touch. We'd sit quietly next to each other at the table. Dad would read Think and Grow Rich, just as he had done first thing every morning my entire life. And I was busy writing what you are holding in your hands. We never needed to fill the space with words. I could feel the calm, loving energy as I sat beside him, and he could feel mine. When we did speak, Dad would ask me about this book. He'd ask questions that revealed his genuine interest. He'd listen intently and offer me ideas. He was completely present and engaged in our conversation together. As I write this now, I cannot help but think of the image of Dad holding that sand timer and saying, "We have no idea how much time we have left." That lesson hits me differently now. And the truth is, there are many lessons within that teaching. We all knew my father was 87 years old and would not live forever, but it was impossible to imagine a world without him, especially when you were with him. Even at the end, when he was not feeling well, he was fully present, always giving and interested, still curious and passionate. It was easy to talk yourself out of the image that his health was deteriorating and instead focus on the idea that he would indeed continue to affect the world, that he would continue to be on the other end of the phone line every morning when I called. But of course, that is not the case. He is no longer physically here, but he is here. He is still affecting this world. Here, he is here in the man that I am. I see him in my children and my grandchildren, and hear him in the many clients who have learned from him and the consultants he trained. Dad did change the world, and each of us is doing the same by sharing and living his message. I have a chair in our master bedroom that looks out over Puget Sound. It is a leather recliner that Dad loved. It was his chair whenever he visited our home in Florida. It is where I sit now to receive beyond my mind. I let my thinking mind fade into the background so I can receive from a greater source than myself. This is where I sit. This is where I now sit and talk to my Father. Chapter 12 questions. How do you bring yourself to and keep yourself in the present moment? The answer will be different for each of us, but there is a basic formula that peels away the noise. Oh, I like that. Number 1, consciously observe your thoughts and activities. Number 2, stop and notice your surroundings. In number 3, intentionally focus on just one thing. 4, commit to setting aside distractions. 5, be instead of do. And 6, breathe. Speaking good behind people's backs. Quote, It doesn't matter where you are. You are nowhere compared to where you can go. End quote, Bob Proctor. When Dad and I spoke each morning, we would intentionally talk good about the people in our lives. As the years rolled on, I came up with the phrase, talk, talking good behind their back. I would bring up a name and say, let's talk good behind their back. Of course, he loved doing this. He would frequently say to me, you can always tell a person's character by what they say behind a person's back. Pay attention to what a person says and move away quickly if the conversation moves to negative energy about another person. Too often people get caught up in conversations that deal with trivial details or gossip or judgment. Getting dragged into that kind of energy is never a good thing. Instead, you can be the one talking good about someone when they are not in the room. Pay attention to how it makes you feel. Watch how the person you are talking with comes to life. You will notice that you feel better about yourself and those around you. The positive energy you put out will return to you in ways that will surprise you. I need to practice this. Sometimes you won't even make the connection until you do. That is when you know you are living in what's called praxis, the alignment of belief and behavior. That is so good. That is in TIR, and that word always gets me, but that's true. That is praxis, the alignment of belief with behavior. Cool. And that is a great way to live. You will be in constant flow of good, both what you are putting out and what is flowing back to you. Mike Dooley, an author and speaker, said, thoughts become things, and your words are your wings. That caught my attention. Be thoughtful with words you speak. As Mike said, they are your wings. They can carry you to high places or take you to where you don't want to go. Sometimes after Dad and I would hang up, I would message the person we talked good about that day. I wouldn't give details. I would simply send a lovely little nugget of thought because that may be the one little thing to change the course of their day for the better. Recently, I received a message out of the blue that did just that for me. The text said she and her husband were talking good about me behind my back. What a beautiful message. This means someone listened to my story and consciously chose to incorporate the practice into their life. Sometimes I talk about these morning conversations with my father when I'm speaking to a group. It brings me great satisfaction when I see eyes in the audience light up at the idea of making it a practice to speak behind someone's back in a positive and loving way. Last week, I saw a fantastic post from the singer-songwriter Pink in the news. She said, quote, I'd like to propose a worldwide internet challenge to anyone reading this today. Go one day without criticizing someone online, end quote. Pink has a large following, and that post may have made a positive difference for thousands of people in one day. But even if it only influenced one person, she made a difference because that one person will impact another. Imagine just for a moment how the world would be different if we all lived with that attitude. The influence I strive to have in this world is by example. When we change ourselves first is when we influence others through these teachings, one person at a time. The possibility of reach is infinite. It is like that beautiful quote from Mahatma Gandhi. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. We need not wait to see what others do. Consider, how do you handle the rabbit hole of negative or senseless chatter? None of us are immune to getting caught up in this, but when you pay attention, you become aware of how much faster and can change the direction of the conversation or change your direction and walk away. It is not always easy to walk the high road, but it is always better. Give some thought to incorporating the practice of talking good about people. It is a Bob Proctor legacy, that will continue to change the world. Choose a friend and get involved. Get them involved in this practice. Exercise with you and have fun with it. That's so cool. Let me just see where I'm at here. I'm going to wrap it up right here because I have just enough. I'm on page 325. We will wrap it up because we're going to start talking about the impression of increase. And I do not want that to just be cut short because it's so important. So let's just leave it there. Page 325 for Wednesday. And then we will definitely wrap up the book. I am sure of it. And if not, we'll take a few more minutes and we will make sure that we do and reflect back on this amazing, amazing book. My father knew the secret. He certainly did. And he didn't even know it. He practiced it. And then he didn't even practice it. He showed people how to show others, including myself and numerous other consultants. He showed us how to show others how to implement it in your life to make your life better. Better is a good word, as Bob Proctor would say. I'll love you and leave you. And I will see you on Wednesday. I got other work to do. We'll talk to you then. Bye.